Hello, welcome to another episode of Ask Kate, brought to you by the Children's Tumor Foundation. We'll be releasing an episode of Ask Kate each week in September and leading up to an exciting new project that you'll be able to find here in the Children's Tumor YouTube space that's going to be starting up in October, and I will be talking a little bit more about that over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for more information. Today, I want to talk a little bit about some questions that I've been getting more frequently recently, and that has a lot to do with how do I, if I've heard as a patient about a new drug that's being developed or that someone else is taking or that might have promising effectiveness for something I'm dealing with as someone with NF, how do I get access to that and get more information? So I want to talk a little bit about an email I specifically got this week from a grandmother who is asking on behalf of her grandson who lives with NF1 and plexiform neurofibromas. Many of you have probably heard about the newer line of medications, of drugs that we're developing that seem to have a very high effectiveness in stopping the growth of the plexiform neurofibroma and actually also shrinking them and causing them to get smaller. So this is very exciting because we have not really seen these types of tumors respond well to other types of chemotherapy that are available for other types of cancers and tumors. So it's been very exciting. This grandmother had heard about a particular drug that's kind of within this family, something that was happening in London, and she wanted to know more about, how would we get a hold of this and how would we get this for my grandson. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about how I responded to that and some, helpful information for the community in general. So the first thing I talked about was the fact that getting access to what is the latest and what is kind of at the forefront of what's happening in the world of NF and treatment, and this goes for NF1, NF2, schwannomatosis, a lot of that starts with where you get your care. So I always give a plug for the NF Clinic Network. There are over 50 clinics in our network now that are spread across the country. This is still not enough, and I know a lot of our families and patients that are either driving hours to get to one of these network clinics or who simply it's not an option because of time, distance, insurance issues, money, things that are obviously very frustrating. So if it's possible, I always recommend starting with reaching out to me and we can work together to see if there is a network clinic that is accessible to you. And a big part of that is because this clinic network that we've created was really started to elevate and standardize NF care and to improve the communication between what's happening in the research world, getting that to the bedside and to families so we can make those connections and get the people who need it the treatment and the care that they really, really do need. So I always start with, let's see if there's a clinic that is near you that's part of our network. If not, there are lots of medical centers and physicians who are willing to kind of work with you to learn more about what's available. And so, I'm always willing to help with that as well. And so reaching out to me with these kinds of questions is, of course, I'm happy to hear from you and I'm happy to see what I can do. So another thing that you may have heard about is selumetinib is a drug that's within this family that is showing these promising results with shrinking those plexiform neurofibroma tumors. Selumetinib was given what's called Orphan Drug status by the FDA. Essentially what that means is that this is a medication that's being developed that's treating a medical condition that's rare enough that it really wouldn't be profitable for a pharmaceutical company to continue its development without assistance from the government. So it's very good news because it gives the pharmaceutical companies more incentive to develop these medications and to get them to market so that anyone living with NF1 who's seeing their physician regularly, who has a plexiform neurofibroma, that can be an option for that clinician to say, this could be a treatment that would help you, and there wouldn't be the need for the clinical trial in that case. So we do not have full FDA approval of selumetinib yet. We're excited it's going to happen, but we have to wait for that process to be completed. So the other thing to be aware of is that there is something that is out there called compassionate use. Sometimes they're called compassionate use trials. They do run sort of similarly to a clinical trial. In this case, the idea of a compassionate use trial is that these are patients who are in great need for a particular treatment that is not approved yet by the FDA for that condition. So, for example, a medication to treat a plexiform neurofibroma that doesn't have full FDA approval yet could be accessed by a patient through their physician through this thing called a compassionate use trial. So there's a lot more information about that that you can read about online. You can reach out to me. But the bottom line is it's basically one way to try to access one of these medications while we're waiting for the approval from the FDA. And I don't want to make it sound like that's simple or easy to do. It is not, but it is an option, and it is something that you can talk with your physician about. The last thing I want to talk about today is really a little bit of a plug for the Patient and Family Forum that's happening this September, so very soon, and I think we're just less than a month out, in San Francisco. I would love it if you went to the website to read a little bit more about what that forum is all about, and I would love to see as many of you there as possible. And one of the things we're doing this year that I'm very excited about is that we're going to have a panel of experts from really across the whole spectrum of drug development and therapy development to talk about what does it look like to take a medication from the earliest stages of clinical trials all the way through to full FDA approval and accessibility to the population of patients who need it. So I think it's going to be a really exciting panel. We're going to take an hour and a half just for this. It's going to be really great, and it will apply across all types: NF1, NF2, schwannomatosis. We have some really excellent people joining us for that panel. So I hope that you are at least considering joining us for the forum this year. I know San Francisco can be a difficult place to get to, but I am excited, and I will be there and would love to see as many of you as possible. So thank you for joining me again today. As always, if my video has created more questions than it's answered, please reach out to me. My information is always down below. You can leave a comment. I check those. You can email me directly, but I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. See you next time.